Hi there, supplemental video. In this video, I'm going to cover two basic topics, and this is supplemental because this is not something that's going to be on a test or a quiz or anything. I just think this might be useful information when you go about borrowing money. You need to understand. It's very important that you understand what you're getting into. It's very important that you keep your eyeballs peeled for situations that are out of whack. Then usually if it smells goofy, maybe it's goofy. You know, if it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So let's talk about these. I'm going to talk about two topics. One is short-term loans, and the main reason I will talk about short-term loans is to demonstrate the incredible interest penalty that you pay if you pay off a short-term loan early. It's something that you do not want to do. And sure, it might not hurt you, and sure, you may feel like you're getting out from under, but you'll see the penalty that you pay when you do that. The second example we will look at is a car loan example. And this is a watch out. This used to be done all the time. It's not done quite so much now, but you might get into a fix where you run into a car loan deal like this, and you want to run, not walk away from this sort of situation. So let's begin. I was going to solve these by hand. I actually started doing that on a piece of paper describing the problem, and I decided this is much better to do in Excel. So I will post this Excel spreadsheet when I'm finished with the video, pardon me. And I will also, of course, post the video. So you'll have a video to go with the spreadsheet. I will share my screen here. And let's look at this short-term example. Now, we've been through this in class, the short-term loaning class. So some of this, I don't want to beat that dead horse, but I do want to make sure that we follow through with the right steps. Here we go. This is a short-term loan with an early payment penalty. I put penalty in quotes because there are loans that do actually have a fee associated with paying them off early. This is an implicit penalty in terms of the lender would never say that you're paying a penalty, but you in essence are paying a penalty if you pay it off early, and we'll see how much that penalty really is, and it's amazing. Here's the loan situation. It is a short-term loan, less than 1 year in duration. P is $50,000. That's the loan amount. The APR is 12%, and the loan term is for 8 months. So first we calculate the interest that will be paid over the 8 months. And remember, the formula for that is the number of months of the loan divided by 12, because 12 months in a year. So 8/12 times the APR, which is 0.12. And this is kind of a no-brainer, right? It looks like this will be pretty easy to calculate. It's a number of months divided by 12 months in a year. Maybe I should put some parentheses around here. Divided by 12, and then times the APR. And I bet we get 8%. What do you bet? There we go, 8%. Okay, so we have an 8%. 8% is the interest we'll pay over the 8 months. We got it. We understand that. So the interest amount, the amount that's discounted, right, that we pay at time zero with a short-term loan model is equal to the 50,000 times the 8%. And that is going to be $4,000 that we pay in total interest on this loan. And remember, we pay it at time zero. Okay, now we're going to look at the situation. What if we paid it off over 2 months? And we'll get there in a minute. First, let's find out what the effective 8-month rate is. Remember the formula, P over P minus I, capital I, and then -1, tells us what the effective interest rate is that we pay over over those 8 months. And so here we go. That's pretty easy, I think. And we'll say it's P divided by P minus I, P minus capital I. So it's $50,000 divided by the 46,000, right? That's really how much we're borrowing, really, essentially 46,000. And then we'll subtract 1 from that. Oops, oh, I left off a, let's, okay. So 8.7%, I'm gonna leave that like that, if you will. So our interest that we're really paying, our effective kind of APY for 8 months effective interest is 8.7%. Now, it's really not APY because that's annual percentage yield, but this is the effective rate over 8 months. So let's calculate the annual equivalent to the APR, right? Let's calculate APY and see what that would be if we paid the loan off over the 8 months. And this is just like the example we went over in class. This is just like the example in the textbook, solving for APY here. And remember, here's the formula is 1 plus APR divided by C to the power C minus 1. Now this was the APY formula when we had compounding periods, right? We said it's compounded monthly, so C was 12, or compounded quarterly, so C was 4, or compounded daily, so C was 365. That formula worked. Now, however, this is an 8-month loan, and we didn't talk about compounding periods, but we do assume that C, the compounding period here, is like 8 months. So first of all, this APR divided by C needs to be replaced because it's really not APR divided by C for this calculation. For us, this term right here is going to be the 0.0869. And the C in the exponent is going to be how many 8-month periods are in 1 year. Well, there's 1.5 8-month periods in 1 year, right? Think about that. That's 12 divided by 8, 1.5. So we'll use that in this formula as well. So here we go. Equal 1 plus, and it's going to be 1 plus the APR divided by C. We substitute in this effective, this 8-month effective rate that we just calculated. And then the exponent for this calculation will be 12. It'll always be 12, right? It'll always be 12 because 12 months in a year, short-term loan, divided by 8 months, right? So that's 12 divided by 8, 1.5. And then we'll subtract 1. Now this is the APY, the annual percentage yield, that we would then compare to the APR, if you will. So an effective annual rate for what we're paying here is 13.3%. That is as compared to the 12% APR that we kind of maybe thought we were paying. We're really paying effectively 13.3% on an annual basis, even though it's not an annual loan. That's the equivalent on an annual basis. Now, here's the big question is, what if we paid it in 2 months? What if we pay this in, pay it off in 2 months? So we borrow the money and we use it and we get some sort of cash inflow. So we have the money to pay it off. And after 2 months, we just pay it off. That sounds like a smart thing to do, right? Turns out it's not as smart as you might think. And let's do this. Let's calculate the APR. I'm sorry, the APY, effective annual interest, if we pay it off in 2 months. And remember, the interest doesn't change. So the interest was calculated like it was an 8-month loan. So we essentially have borrowed like $46,000, and 2 months later, we're paying back $50,000. Sounds kind of loan sharkish. So let's calculate what this number would be. Our formula, I'm going to look up here for this formula, but it's going to be slightly different here. 1 plus, again, 1 plus the 8.7% 8-month effective interest. What about the exponent? Well, the exponent now is 12 divided by 2, because we paid it back. It for us, aside from the expense calculations, for us, it was like a 2-month loan. 12 divided by 2 minus 1. So hold on to your socks here. You'll see that that's 65%. So 65% is not a good interest rate to be paying, annual interest rate. That really is loan sharkish. So what would be better is if we had that $50,000 after the 2 months, is to then take that money and invest it somewhere, put it someplace where it can grow in value over the remaining 6 months. And that growth in the value of that then is money to put in your pocket. That's money you can that you've made, as opposed to taking that 50,000, going ahead and paying it off, and effectively paying 65% on this loan, this short-term loan that you receive. Not a good thing. So I hope that makes sense. Yes, you're contractually obligated to pay it off after 8 months. So let's hang on to that money. Don't immediately pay it back. The lender would love it if you would pay that money back over 2 months, after 2 months, because they charged you for 8 months interest, and they're getting their 8-month interest, even though maybe their money's only tied up for 2. So even if it's your best friend, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, let's look at the car loan problem, and let me share my screen again. Let me describe first what this car loan is. So again, we have a car loan, and this car loan, there are fairly unscrupulous lenders who would do this. They're few and far between, but they're out there, and I've seen this before. And they're going to treat this 4-year loan, this 4-year car loan, 48 months, and treat it like a short-term loan, in that it's going to be simple interest, it's going to be discounted, and then there's going to be some other games played. So let me share my screen back again, and let's look at this problem. Here we have a car loan of $20,000. The APR is 8%, and it's going to be paid off over 4 years. So that's that sounds fine. Let me do an in months. We have 48 months to pay this off. Okay. Now we have to put our short-term loan hat on with discounted interest. And when they will be so slick, the lender will say, hey, this is a great loan. It's only simple interest, which sounds like a good deal, right? It's simple. It's very simple interest. It's not this complicated compound stuff. It's simple. When you hear the word simple, your radar ought to go up. This is not starting out, not a good thing. And they'll say, further, we'll discount that interest for you, which sounds like they're doing you a favor. No, they're penalizing you by bringing that interest to time zero, making you pay it today when you take out your loan. So don't Don't fall for this. So let's follow the rules for a short-term loan, which is how they're treating this. And the first thing, of course, is the number of months of the loan divided by 12 times the APR. Well, in this case, the number of months for the loan is 48. So our 48, I'll recalculate this here. This is equal to the 48 months divided by the 12 times the APR of 8. And you're paying 32%. Let's look at that as a percent. You're paying 32% over 4 years, so that they'll assuage your fears. Look, this is over all. This is the total that you'll pay for all 4 years. It's such a good deal. Well, then you take $20,000 to find the interest that you pay, right? You take the principal times the 32%, and you get $6,400. So that's, once again, I'll recalculate it here, 20,000 times the interest that you pay, and that's $6,400. That's a time zero cost. Now, what they will do is they will take that 26 or that 6,400 and say, okay, that's a total interest. Now your loan's for 20,000, and your total interest will be $26,400. That's the total due, and they'll say, okay, that's how much you owe us, $26,400. You owe them the interest and you owe them the principal. Okay, all well and good. Not good, but you can understand where they got that number. Now what they will do, and this is another just shady thing, and they do it because it's simple interest and they can get away with this, they'll take the 26,400 and they'll say, okay, you owe us that much. You've got 48 payments. We'll just divide that total by 48, and this is how much you pay us each month, $550 per month. Okay, so that's your car payment, and you're figuring you're good to go, right? And you go, there's your car loan, and you take off. Okay, well, let's find out what you're really paying. Let's find your true monthly interest, and let's calculate your annual effective interest, your APY. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, we know we have an A, right? There's A. It's $550. We have a P, the amount that you really are supposed to have borrowed, right? $20,000. So we have a P, and we have a number of periods, 48. So we can use the rate function that we've used before to find the interest, and it will be a monthly interest, right? We're using 48 for the number of time periods. It's a monthly rate, and so that is, we'll just enter the rate function. Rate, number of periods is 48. The payments, I'm going to make this a negative. Remember, the rate function is very sensitive about signs, as we need to be all the time. So I'm going to say, okay, our payment, we pay, that's the negative part, $550 per month. And our present value is $20,000. So that's the loan. Now let's find the interest rate. We'll see what that is. And let's get a couple more decimals. So that's 1.2% per month interest. Okay, what about the annual effective interest rate? Well, I'm going to calculate this a couple of ways just for illustration. For those of you who watch this, slog through it for the information that's provided, you'll get a little extra treat here in a function that I'll show you. So the annual effective interest, and this will look like the calculation that we did in the last example. Remember the APY formula, 1 plus APR divided by C, all of that to the power C minus 1. Well, the inside of that APR divided by C part is this 1.2%. I'll just say 1 plus 1.2%. And then the exponent will be 12 because there are 12 months in a year. And that's the 1.2% is a monthly interest rate, and 12 months in a year, take it to the power of 12 minus 1. You may have questions about how I'm doing this. I'm not going to explain it in detail here, but you can ask later if you get this far and want to see. So that's 15.3%. So this loan that you're paying 8% for, because of the way they've structured this repayment, you're really paying 15.33% interest on this loan, almost double the rate that you were told you were paying. So that's obviously not something you really want to do. Let me show you another little trick here. I'm going to say APR, which is not the APR that they said, but this is the APR using the true rate that you're paying. So if you're paying 1.2% per month, the APR is equal to this monthly rate times 12. So your APR should be described as 14.35%. And once you have that, you can find the annual effective interest with this function called effect. And effect has only two arguments. The first argument is the nominal annual rate, the APR, which I can then click on there. And then the next argument is the number of periods per year, 12 for us. And you'll see I get 15.33%. So it's the same. You can use the effect, and then you don't have to use that 1 plus formula. But you have to be very cautious. There's some neat tricks you can play with the effect function. You can also make some real mistakes. So my last comment on this is that here again, if you pay this off early, the penalty you pay gets compounded again. I mean, if you paid this off over 2 years, you hustled up and paid it off over 2 years, your interest rate it just skyrockets. So while there may be no prepayment penalty, and in fact, they would encourage you to pay it off early. If you pay this sort of loan off, if you pay this simple interest calculation, discounted interest, if you pay that off early, every day you pay it off early, you're paying an effective higher interest rate than you would otherwise. So you don't want to do that. Okay, those are some neat, I think, fun with economics problems, and they're sad tales, actually, very sad stories. But you should be able to use the tools that we've covered so far and a little bit of brain work and figure these things out so you can protect yourself. And the reason I do this video is so that those of you who watch it, you can learn to protect yourself, and you can learn, the more you mess with these tools, the better you get at them, and then you can solve simple problems much easier and much more quickly. I hope this was beneficial. I'll post it up when everything's all coded up and finished and things like that. And then I'll see you in class whenever I see you in class. Hope you have a good day.